How are you holding up? I think it's me and a panel between you and cocktails, so we'll try to get through this, and hopefully it's interesting. Do we have sports fans here remaining? Yeah? How about Olympics fans? Folks watch? Good. So this is interesting because the Paris Olympics and really all of the Olympics experiences that I've done give us a very unique window into how to design these experiences because they're highly complex, they're highly scaled, and you have to have laser focus to pull it off. So we're going to dive into a little bit of a case study today. And before I do, and John alluded to this earlier, I want to just level set for everyone the US market so you have a little bit of understanding of the scope. So first of all, we have our over-the-air linear broadcast, we have our cable networks, we of course have broadband, our own streaming service, and then we have satellite and telco as well. So then you're also looking at all the devices that go with that. We have legacy set-top boxes, which are older and have just very simple grid guides. We have, of course, web, mobile, tablet, we have connected devices, and we have smart TVs. And we have this for the distributors, which are our partner distributors, including MVPDs and DMVPDs. We also have all of our own on-domain experiences as well. In addition to that, we also have all of our networks. So we have our broadcast network, which is NBC Entertainment. Then we have NBC Sports and Olympics, which is largely the production arm for everything we do with our sports entities. And then we have our cable networks, so we have USA, CNBC, Bravo, and E, which all carry Olympics content. We also have the Sci-Fi network. We don't put any Olympics content on Sci-Fi. And then we also are privileged to have the Spanish language rights to broadcast the Olympics. So we have Telemundo Universo and Telemundo Deportes. So that adds this layer of complication to the workflows as well and the supply chain. And so we have to integrate all of this. Now, layer into that, the Olympics stories are actually comprised of 32 sports in the Summer Games. Some of those are common sports, like basketball. I'll show you an example of that. But then there are others, like rowing and fencing and judo, that don't get a lot of attention. We have 3,200 live events. So when you think about a live event, that's just one event. Then we also have the full event replay. We have multiple highlight clips. We have news packaging around it. We have all sorts of content that goes with it. We have then up to 300 live events per day. So just the tonnage there of the support and streaming services and the QA and everything else that goes with that operationally. And that goes for the user, I think it's the first Tuesday in the first week of the Olympics that they can have up to 60 concurrent live streams going at once. So for a consumer, that becomes very complex to find what it is they want to watch. And of course, this is all compressed into 17 days. No pressure. So this presents some challenges for our partner distributors because first of all, where do you even focus your development efforts with something at this scale, right? Where do you put the energy? Do you even want to develop something that's just an event that's 17 days long? How are consumers going to find this content? It's very difficult to retrofit Olympics content into an existing UI because it's got some unique formats and structures of the events themselves. And then how do you actually personalize? And this is becoming more and more relevant now in the age of personalization on mobile devices particularly, but how do you personalize an experience that's live for only 17 days? You know, on day 2, the algorithm doesn't work based on your viewing history. Search functionality doesn't work when no one has ever searched for 2024 Paris Olympics, right? There's just nothing there yet. And so we want to help our partner distributors solve for these challenges. So I want to take a big step back because it feels very overwhelming. When you look at the scale of an event like this, you look at the ecosystem, and then you compress it into that time frame, you really don't have the opportunity to think as expansive and divergently as you want. You need to focus on a couple core principles, and that helps to get everybody aligned and create a great cross-platform experience. So I want to start with a step back and This is the only place you will see this video because it's an Olympics video. It's got a lot of American athletes in it, but hopefully brings together a little bit of the look and feel that you could expect from our NBC Sports content. When we talk about really designing these huge platform experiences, if you can focus on two things, functionality and feelings, and there's the expression in the design community that form follows function. In the content creation, form follows feelings. And so we want to combine those two things together. And so we really help our partner distributors to focus on two principles. One, content discovery, pure and simple. That's going to be the technological functionality. And then also the emotional resonance. And that's where we also help step in and support, whether it's editorial or artistic and creative opportunities. So let's dive in. We'll give this a go here. So one of the first things when it comes to designing a sports experience at this scale is we really encourage the distributors to lean into the idea of a hub. And part of that is just because it's almost impossible to take all of these sports and retrofit them into an existing UI. So most of the interfaces that we deal with in the United States, they're designed around the leagues. So you might have NFL, NBA, MLB. But the problem is when you have basketball in the Olympics, you not only have basketball, but if you aggregate that, and I've heard the word super aggregator here, you would ultimately get NBA, WNBA, NCAA, men's and women's basketball. You would probably also get some high school basketball as well on some of the networks. So at the end of the day, basketball isn't sufficient. So we try to help the partner distributors design a dedicated hub specific to the Olympics. And it's actually easier to do that than it is to try to put the content into an existing UI. If they don't want to do that themselves, we build it for them, and we actually integrate it onto their platforms. So because we have the ability to understand their platform, but we also understand the content and the programming strategy, we can kind of do both. So we play both sides of the game. In addition to that, if they do want to do it themselves, we can provide a UX guideline, a whole set of guidelines for them, and a UI toolkit. And that's a little bit unique to the Olympics because the partner distributors actually have to submit all of their wireframes through our legal team, and that goes to the IOC for approval. So they can't even launch their partner experience until, that's exciting, that tells you the legal team is here, until it's been approved and in compliance with the IOC. We also provide a real-time schedule. This is really critical in the Olympics. Again, it's a live event, and there are multiple live events. We have weather delays sometimes. And so even though the real-time schedule might not be integrated into the UI, it's very often used as a B2B product just for the teams on the distributor side to say, hey, I might be at YouTube TV or at Hulu, and there's a weather delay, and our metadata hasn't ingested the update yet, so we'll go in and editorialize it so it's good for our users. In addition to that, we even go to the trouble of ghostwriting copy. This is a great little toolkit. We give them a dashboard, so if they want to push out mobile alerts or if they want to put toasters onto a smart TV or a connected device, everything is pre-written. They tap directly into our production capabilities, so everything is spell checked, all the athlete names are spelled correctly, they know exactly what time it's going on air, and it just makes it a very simple tool for the distributor marketing teams to be able to push out information. That helps with that algorithmic challenge that I mentioned earlier, and also the search challenge, and I'll show you an example of that. And last but not least, cross-platform artwork. This is one of the biggest ones, and it's a result of the two principles. It's the feelings. You know, when a consumer comes to the UI, it's very similar to food. You eat with your eyes first. And so the ability to recognize things visually very quickly is very compelling, and it gets people directly into content. I'm going to talk mostly about the first and the last of these, primarily because they're the most visual. I could talk about an XML feed, but it's not very pretty on a slide, so you're welcome to ask me after. But let's lean into the Olympics hub first. So there's some great benefits to this. First of all, everything's all in one place. So while it's not a super aggregator, it's an aggregator of all Olympics content. That makes it contextual, so the content is curated very contextually, and I'll show you an example of that, which makes it for a seamless user journey as well. You don't have to learn the pathing, it's kind of just obvious and intuitive where to go. And then we can also have some very impactful editorial nuance in these experiences, which is really relevant to the amount of consumption and the increase in consumption by giving users motivation to consume. So here's an example. This is everything all in one place. This is an example. This happens to be a VOD page here, but you can see the navigation is all 32 sports of the Olympics. So we've got basketball, and as I said before, while you might think of basketball and NBA and NCAA in the US, in the Olympics you also have 3-on-3 basketball, and you might not know that as a consumer. So as a basketball fan, it's right next to it. Very easy, just step in comfort. In addition to that, it's contextually curated, so everything basketball is right on this page. So if you were to go to 3-on-3, you'd see all the highlights, all the replays of 3-on-3. Just makes it super easy. It's so intuitive for a user to go in. They're not looking for a single event in a whole series of events. It's all curated. Very seamless user journey. Again, these are full event replays. And so now you don't really have to search for the basketball replays. They're all right here. What you're looking for are just the teams and the matchups that you want, and we provide all those matchup graphics as well. We saw earlier in the Icelandic news presentation that athletes drive a lot of consumption. And so we're very fortunate at NBC to have a lot of marketing around our top American athletes. We do special photo shoots with them as well. And so we can leverage a lot of that creative to create these pages where consumers can jump right in and follow an athlete. And everything is curated around that athlete, including some athlete bio points. Simone Biles is 4 feet 7 inches tall, by the way. And again, all the highlight clips right there. So if you're a Simone Biles fan, if you missed something, you jump right in. The nice thing is that we can also then do a 360. Because we're providing these sort of tap into our production capability tools, we can also give you this copy. This was the alert copy I alluded to earlier. Watch now, Simone Biles goes for gold in women's gymnastics, all around live at 9 p.m. on NBC with a deep link directly into content. So now you don't even need the interface. You can just go right into the content on whatever device you're on. So if you're a platform that's using toasters and that comes up, you can tune right in and go directly to content. That drives an enormous amount of consumption. Up to 500,000 folks can jump in with one alert, which is a huge number. This is an example of the editorial nuance that I mentioned. So here we are, we're just in a sort of general page of VOD content again. And you know, for sports, most of the emphasis is on live. But when you curate VOD content and you have it at this scale, it does become meaningful to a consumer. And here's why. I drop into this page, and I have this tray of highlight clips, and then I've got gold medal moments down at the bottom, and we can title those trays differently. Now, our editorial teams go to a tremendous amount of trouble to edit down the entire day of the Olympics into a 5 to 7 minute recap. It takes them all day to do it. And if you were to just toss that into a whole series of highlight clips, it would be lost, and there isn't a lot of consumption. In addition to that, the actual titles have to be standardized. So even the metadata doesn't really work for the consumer. This is titled Best of Paris Competition Day 12, and then Best of Paris Competition Day 11, Best of Paris Competition Day 10. It's not super compelling. So we actually title the tray, Watch Every Day in 7 minutes or less. Increases consumption 120%. That's the impact of the editorial. And last but not least, the cross-platform artwork benefits. So when we collaborate with our partners, whether it's a YouTube TV or our own parent company, Comcast, we can provide a lot of creative for them. We can actually do the episodic artwork as well. Now, not every platform has the capability to do episodic artwork, but if they do, we can do all the matchup graphics in advance. We actually go through and we map out the entire potential possibility of every outcome in every bracket that has a matchup to figure out what that is. That's about 3,000 assets of country flags, team versus team. We put those into little S3 buckets and we map them to a TMS ID and we syndicate them directly to the partners and they say, hey, it's already done for us. There's no guessing. So everything is compliant, the flags are compliant with the IOC, we know the matchups are accurate because we have the programming schedule. So it just makes it a really nice tool, and all we're trying to do is make it really easy for partner distributors to get it right. We also provide them with background images. Like I said, there's a UI toolkit. I'll show you an example of that. We have approved art kits. If you want to go DIY, we give you all the pictograms and everything else that are pre-approved. But we absolutely make sure that the most impactful images are the ones that are accurate across every platform. So let's take a look. Here's Primetime in Paris, July 26th. This is an example of our artwork. We know what's in the programming on primetime because we actually write the show and we figure it out. And so we know who's going to be featured in that event, or in that night, in that episode of the primetime show. So we know it's men's gymnastics, women's track and field, and women's swimming. And so again, we can use our artwork and our creative to make that a more bespoke experience for the partner distributors, where this is not something, even with AI or if you had the player headshots, you couldn't really do it because you wouldn't know what's in the programming yet until you get the schedule from us. This is an example of a background image, again, so these get pre-approved. It's very difficult to use the Olympic flag wrapped around anything. There are a lot of requirements around that. Again, all of these Olympic flags are cut to spec for everyone. Flags vary in sizes, and the Olympics flags and some of the country flags that are used by the IOC are slightly different and nuanced. So we make sure it's all compliant and in a nice little kit for everyone. This is an expansion of the kit, so we give background images, lots of fancy things to get the look and feel, so it maintains the on-air look and feel. So it's not a complete discontinuation of the actual on-air graphics. We want the actual experience on the platform to look similar to what you will see on air. So we use our on-air graphics team to design a lot of the sort of pre-qualifying graphics that we will then explore on all of these. We provide the pictograms and everything else. And this is actually an example of a DIY. This is our parent company, Comcast. Last but not least, Primetime in Paris. So this is the series art. So this particular piece of art is cut into many different sizes to fit all of those platforms I described and every distributor. And many of them have very unique specifications. If you want to find the Olympics primetime, you need to find this piece of artwork no matter what device you're on. This actual single piece of creative has over 7 billion impressions. So you want to make sure you get these right. And that's where having us provide them to the partner distributors and then collaborating on how to get them to the platforms in the sizes, specifications, requirements that they need, making sure that it's displayed properly, QA'd and UAT'd, really has a high impact. Because again, to John's point earlier, we know that consumers are finding content on their phones, in social media, they're finding on connected devices, all over the place. And so you want it to be recognizable when you've only got that 17-day window. So this is our victory lap. When we pull these off, it's such a huge event and our teams worked pretty tirelessly. But we had over 30 million primetime viewers across platforms. We were ranked #1 in primetime. This was our 152nd consecutive Summer Olympic nights that we were ranked #1. NBC ranked #1 in 18 to 49 for the entire television season. Our cable network, USA, was ranked #1 in sports and entertainment over the course of the Olympics. Peacock, our streaming service, streamed the entire Olympics and then some, 23.5 billion minutes of coverage. And our social channels recorded 6.5 billion impressions. So when you start to look at something at that scale, as I said, you can scale it up, you can do the fancy technical things, but sometimes it's just scaling it down, focusing on the very simple things, content discovery, and keeping it simple and making sure the art and the creative is impactful and emotionally resonant. And those things are the things that really help you to create a great cross-platform experience. I think that's it. Tusen takk.